Welcome to Satanism 101. Class is in session. Satanism 101 answers some of the frequently asked questions about the religion of Satanism and the Church of Satan, and will address the various misconceptions about both. Time for the usual YouTube business. If you like this video series, please hit that thumbs up to like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, and leave a comment or a question you'd like to see answered in a future episode. In this episode, we'll be discussing another topic I'm sure everyone can readily agree on. Oh no. So what is Satanism's political stance? No. Again, no. Oh, good grief. The answer is none of these. Satanism was created as an apolitical religion. As stated about the topic of our previous video, is abortion a satanic sacrament, politics was never mentioned in Anton LaVey's The Satanic Bible. To summarize Magus Peter H. Gilmore's essay, The Church of Satan's Policy on Politics, available on the Church of Satan's website, an individual Satanist's political perspective can be seen only as their own, and it is not representative of the political aims of other Satanists, Satanism, or the Church of Satan. A Satanist's political views should be pragmatically made so it works best for them. If you have a personal political belief or opinion, and you wish to share it with others, you should be able to respectfully state and defend your decision, but you should also not attempt to force your ideas upon others or expect them to agree with you. Ask any number of Satanists for their political views, you'll probably get just as many different answers. To quote from the aforementioned essay, our members span an amazing political spectrum, which includes, but is not limited to, libertarians, liberals, conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, Reform Party members, independents, capitalists, socialists, communists, Stalinists, Leninists, Trotskyites, Maoists, Zionists, monarchists, fascists, anarchists, and just about anything else you could possibly imagine. Detractors from across the political spectrum have attempted to lambast Satanism and its representative organization due to the views of its founder Anton Szandor LaVey and the source material he drew inspiration from when codifying this religion. What they always fail to see is the concepts LaVey pulled from these sources were never chosen as a political stance to be applied to the religion. For instance, there are multiple recorded instances of LaVey acknowledging borrowing ideas from notable authors. One was Ayn Rand. While certain politicians, such as former United States Representative Paul Ryan, claimed Rand's objectivism was a basis for many of his legislative decisions, LaVey's critics frequently miss what Rand's true influence upon Satanism was: skeptical atheism and rational self-interest. Plus, as stated by Church of Satan Magister Bill M. on his Satansplain podcast, these weren't even original to Rand. Friedrich Nietzsche had already made similar statements. Rand's politics were not an influence. For a much deeper dive on the Satanism-Rand connection, or lack thereof, download episode 4 of the Satansplain podcast by Church of Satan Magister Bill M., as well as Magister Nemo's essay, Satanism and Objectivism, available on the Church of Satan website. Ragnar Redbeard, widely believed to be the British author Arthur Desmond, wrote the incendiary tome Might is Right, which was also influential upon Anton LaVey. While the book has been described as a proto-fascist screed, its influence upon the Magus was not political. In his 1996 introduction to a printing of the book, LaVey wrote, "A fractional content of Might is Right was edited for inclusion because the book is so filled with glaring contradictions that it is, at best, a rant. It was that very rant format, however, that had fired me up, and in many ways spoke for me. I intended the Satanic Bible itself to be an instructional rant, albeit a necessary and largely rational one. I decided to immortalize a writer who had profoundly reached me." As High Priest Gilmore wrote in his introduction to the authoritative edition published by Underworld Amusements, "Since such divergent literature is not abundant, we pragmatic readers examine the totality of the concepts in Might is Right, and even though it contains wildly incongruent aspects, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater." LaVey focused the excerpts he took from Desmond's work to project its quintessence: the rejection of forced egalitarianism via submission, and instead championing a prideful self-determinism. Desmond at times castigates the society in which he lived by scapegoating racial and ethnic groups, and his views on female empowerment are deeply retrogressive, which I find taints his primary motivation to offer an antidote to what Nietzsche aptly identified as a slave morality. We Satanists have discovered that those born to be their own masters can come from any sex and background. They supersede their ancestors by refusing to be part of any sort of collective identity and stand as sovereign consciousnesses challenging the world. Despite its noted obvious flaws, the book perfectly documents humankind's efforts to dominate nature and each other. Satanism's perspective views life for what it is, not what we want it to be, especially if such an ideal is unrealistic. To summarize Redbeard, the will to survive is paramount. Nations go to arms to defend their financial and/or political interests, which will include overthrowing other governments. Further accusations have been leveled against the current administration of the organization. Church of Satan High Priest Peter H. Gilmore included his essay The Fascism Question in his book The Satanic Scriptures. While some try to use this article as proof the organization or the religion supports fascism, the article ultimately counters their misrepresentations, as Gilmore points out how fascism places the state above the individual. This is counterintuitive to Satanism, as the individual Satanist is the godhead of the religion. The incompatibility of these right-leaning ideas should not be seen as implying a left-wing view. In LaVey's 1988 essay, Pentagonal Revisionism, a 5-point program, the concept of stratification is found. As he wrote, there can be no more myth of equality for all. It only translates to mediocrity and supports the weak at the expense of the strong. Water must be allowed to seek its own level, without interference from apologists for incompetence. No one should be protected from the effects of his own stupidity. This is not a political statement. In nature, there simply is no equality. It's simply impossible. There will always be those who will do better or worse than others. While Satanism rejects egalitarianism, it says nothing against treating people equitably. To this day, the Church of Satan maintains policies in which persons of any gender, ethnicity, sex, pedigree, ability, or financial status can become a member or be elevated within the organization. As an example, when it was founded in the 1960s, the Church of Satan was, if not the very first, then certainly one of the first open and above-ground religious institutions in the Western world to not only accept members of the LGBTQIA+ community, but to make them members of their hierarchy and clergy. This idea was considered revolutionary in its time, and it's only been within the past few decades that right-hand path religions have caught up. Did Anton LaVey completely agree with any side of the political spectrum? Unfortunately, the man is no longer with us, so we cannot ask him. However, the idea the religion he created was on one side or the other of the political spectrum falls apart when someone attempts to attach political ideas to the religion he created. Like abortion, LaVey did not make his personal political opinions part of the canon of Satanism, and he left those matters to the individuals involved to decide for themselves. Satanism eschews collectivist thinking. Remember how I said earlier that Satanism views life for what it is, not what we want it to be? This world is what we have to live with. An individual can certainly set goals to change their world to be what they want to see, but success is not guaranteed and a political view is not necessarily attached. Normally I would have ended this video here, but in the comments section of this channel's first video, Why Do You Worship the Devil?, I was asked my opinion on a particular group who, in this author's opinion, appropriated the name of my chosen religion for political purposes and media attention. While the policy of this channel is not to engage in opinion but stick to facts, in keeping with the first satanic rule of the earth, an opinion was asked for, so here it is. I have been an openly declared Satanist for almost the entirety of my adult life. When I discovered this religion over 3 decades ago, I was glad I found a religious practice which not only addressed my human needs, but one I was proud to get behind. Mind you, this was back at the very beginning of the 1990s, when the satanic ritual abuse moral panic was still in full swing, and people were losing their livelihoods, as well as their freedom from wrongful felony convictions. Look up the stories of Dan and Fran Keller as a perfect tragic example. This was a dark time in the history of Satanism, and it could have been considered a poor time to make that choice for myself, especially while serving in the U.S. Armed Forces on a base located in the American South. Satanism was never meant to appeal to the masses. It also was not created to represent anyone's cause. It was created as a tool to enjoy life without the guilt or impositions utilized by other religions. While it does not discourage participation in political activities if doing so makes one happy, such participation should not be mandatory. Demanding homogeneity in political or other thought processes, or mandating participation in the same, is a hallmark of the type of collectivism I see in the Abrahamic faiths and the other religions which repress humankind's carnal natures. I don't appreciate said groups obfuscating the ideas of my chosen religion by presenting an appearance of Satanists simply being those practicing a contrarian ideology, intent on irritating a specific popular religious practice. Such actions will, through ignorance or deliberate design, only lead to a new satanic panic and push the progress this religion has made back several decades. I cannot appreciate any group attempting to conflate or enforce a particular political position upon this religion, regardless of whether I agree with those politics or not. Satanism was, is, and shall remain mutually exclusive from politics. Class dismissed.